We'll call to order the City Commission meeting. It's Monday, September the 11th, 2023, 5:30 p.m. If you'd please stand for the invocation and the pledge. Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over this group tonight, that you help us to make good decisions for the city of Leesburg. We do this in your name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have an announcement to make before we get started. If you are here for items 6A, 1, and 2, which are the second reading ordinances of the PMF Leesburg SSCP, that has been postponed until September 25th of this year at 5:30 p.m. Here at the Fred Morrison Chamber of Leesburg City Hall. So you're welcome to stick around if you'd like, but we won't be talking about that tonight. So there are no proclamations. We have no presentations. So we'll move on to item 4. That's public comments. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or will be scheduled for consideration at a future City Commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And would you please give your name and address when you come to the microphone? Is there any public comment?
Bill Polk, 600 Cascade Avenue. I was hoping that one of you guys might bring this up. Today's September 11th. On September 11th, 2001, the United States was attacked in New York, and 2,799 people were killed, innocent people. So I just want to thank God for those that died for us. We live in a great nation, in a great city, and I hope we all know and understand what we truly have here. Amen.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commission or staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, pull the item or items from the consent agenda. 2, vote on remaining items with 1 roll call vote. And 3, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Are there any items wish to be pulled? Perfect.
We need to pull 5C6.
Oh, we do have to pull that. Yeah. Yes. Would somebody? The Electric Advisory Board. We have.
I'll pull 5C6.
Thank you. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve all the remaining items.
Second.
All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay. That was 5C6, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, would someone please introduce 5C6?
I'll ask you by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, appointing members to the Leesburg Electric Advisory Board and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Just want a brief kind of introductory to the reason. Back in, I believe it was 2017, the City Commission modified the city code by the creation of an electric advisory board. That body was never filled. Its purpose really was to create an advisory board that would help the City Commission review operations of the electric department, set rates, and have kind of a quasi-authority, if you will. After the reason, there's several reasons why that committee was never appointed. Essentially, it was because we just didn't get a lot of interest in it at the time. Since 17, a few things have happened, namely the last executive session, where probably, at least in my career here in Florida, which spans over 20 years, municipal electric utilities really saw kind of an assault on how we do operations. Lots of different reasons for why that occurred, but really the big example, the big lesson learned from that case is that should kind of the state legislature seek to change the way we operate in terms of transfers, in terms of how we're regulated, the model that seems to keep coming through is some type of utility authority model. In a utility authority model, the electric authority would ultimately have all control of operations. Examples of that would be JEA, OUC, Key West Energy, KUA, those type of utilities. There are still a couple of larger municipal electric utilities where the city commission still manages all the operations. Lakeland Electric and City of Tallahassee would be those examples that come to mind. But in any case, kind of in preparation of what is potentially going to be a new world order and a new way municipal utilities operate in the state of Florida, really advise that the creation of this advisory board will assist and guide the city in managing its electric operations. So with that being said, the concept of the advisory board is to get information, input, and giving all of the ratepayers kind of feedback and an opportunity to guide and regulate our municipally owned utility. So with that being said, the city serves really three cross sections of residents in our region. Our city is 30,000 people, but in our not quite, it was 30,000 I think last month we hit that was the new report. But our electric utility has just a little bit over 27,000 customers. If you do the math on that, that's almost 60,000 electric customers. So really our customer base is split of about 50% inside city limits and outside city limits. So the committee seeks to get input from all of our customer base. We have customers in the city of Fruitland Park. We have customers in unincorporated Lake County that are within our service territory. And of course, we have our own residents being customers. And in fact, we have some of our own residents who aren't on our electric system at all. Leesburg's unique in that way. And then we also have our commercial customers. So the concept seeks to get input from all of our customer bases. So the 5-member panel would represent the city of Fruitland Park, would represent unincorporated Lake, would represent Leesburg as residential customers, and then we split the commercial customers into two phases, big electric customers and smaller electric customers. The commission then is to appoint a representative to each one of those dichotomies of membership, and once the board is appointed, we'll start meeting on a regular basis. As the committee deems fit, or as you may direct, immediately, my thoughts would be to just kind of get the Electric Advisory Board up to snuff on how electric utilities operate in the state of Florida, the different types of utilities, why they function, a little bit of Power 101 class, and go over and review the differences of all the components that make up electric utilities, from generation to wheeling generation to transmission to the distribution aspects to the customer service aspects. I think those are kind of going to be rudimentary things that we talk about. Probably take us through the last quarter here, and then as we get into the new year, we'll start breaking down, going over our system to educate the board, and then start moving into, as we get closer to budget timeframes, kind of some of the parameters of how we do budgeting, where we spend our money, why we spend our money, rate structure, and we'll try to get all that input to the committee so that they have some recommendations for you, which I think then ultimately, probably by mid next year, so June, July 24, you'll have their input as you review the electric fund budget. So with that, I provided to the commission several different resumes. I think we got, don't hold me to it, maybe 12 or so applications for the 5 different spots. Your job this evening then is to go through those resumes, which are collated into the different sectors and appointments. The only hiccup in that giddy up is the code called for a 2-year term, but because it's a new committee, there's a staggered term. So the way I split that up was to kind of keep the commercial customers as the 1-year appointee and the residential customer base as the 2-year appointees. And then at the end of this year, we'll need to reappoint commercial customers for 2 years. And then the year after that, the residential customers will then get a 2-year, reappointment or new appointments to meet with the 2-year staggered term. So with that, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I'll turn it back to you. I think the way we had the agenda laid out was to pick the residential customers appointments first, so Leesburg, Lake County, Fruitland Park, and then tackle the large, small commercial appointment.
So with the rest of the commissions, I would like to hear if there are the 3 candidates for the residential customer. If Jack is here, Jose and Frederick, do we have any of those folks here? Okay, so we just have to decide. I was going to give them a chance to give me their elevator stone, but so we're looking for a motion for who should.
I'll make a motion for Jack Branton.
Yeah. Second.
Discussion? No discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Mayor Burry.
Yes. Okay, we'll move to the Lake County residential customers. We have 6 folks. Are there any of those folks here tonight that'd like to say something? Please come to the microphone, sir. Give us your name and address, too, please.
Maurice Graham. Good evening. Maurice Graham, 2419 South Avenue, Leesburg, Florida. I've been with Duke Energy for 12 years. I started out as a groundman in distribution. I then went to energy efficiency for 6 years, where I oversaw contractors that did the energy efficiency upgrades, installation, HVAC repair, hot water heater repair, and I also resolved public service commission complaints. Now I'm back in distribution, and I oversee our contract resources.
Any questions for the candidate?
Any questions? Maurice Graham. Maurice, M-O-I-S-E. Any questions?
I don't see any questions. Thank you, sir. There it is.
Timothy Morris, 9605 Silver Lake Drive, Leesburg, Florida, right next to the college. I'd love to serve on the board because I know how to tear a budget apart. I know how to find out where revenues are coming from, where expenses are coming from. I know how to make things a little leaner, and we've done that in our business. We now service all the Southeast, 8 states, and we have been the turtle, not the hare. We know how to grow our business, and we know how to watch receivables and payables, and we know how to make things work in hard environments. So that's why I'm interested in being on this committee. I'm Ernie Morris Enterprises.
I'm Angela Wade. I live at 218 Prince Drive. I am a fairly new resident of Leesburg. My husband and I moved here last November. My intent in wanting to serve on the board is I like to give back to the community. I am retired. I was a GS-12 for the Department of Defense. I was also a leading petty officer in the Naval Reserve. I also was on the board as a consumer advocate down in Port Charlotte. As I say, I'm retired. I have the time. I have the interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Grant, I had one question.
Discussion. Yeah.
For Mr. Graham, is there a issue with him working for Duke Energy, being on our board?
I think there's some concern. I don't think that there's anything that would necessarily disqualify him. There could be some potential conflict of interest that may arise, I guess, though, in terms of advising Leesburg Electric and being employed with Duke Energy. I'm not sure exactly, what kind of authority he might have, but I do see that there could certainly be a scenario where there might be a conflict that could arise in that under those circumstances.
Thank you.
Now, he could, potentially, disclose that conflict and work out of that, but it could be a challenge at times.
Any other discussion? No. Motion?
I'll make a motion to nominate Tim Morris.
I'll second that. And Miss Wade, we have lots of openings on boards, so if you would get with Andy, I think you'd be a great fit on one of our boards.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to the Fruiton Park residential customer. We have Mark and Thomas. Would you please come up and give us your stump?
Good evening. My name is Tom Jemison. I'm a resident of the Villages of Fruitland Park, 3089 Collins Court. My background is an engineer. I was a plant manager for a medium-sized chemical plant, 75 employees. We were a large industrial user, consumer of electricity and natural gas. I've had a long-term interest in following the energy space, if you will, kind of a proponent of some of the more greener energies that are going on right now. I have a father that was a electrician. He got his trade from Alcoa, the big aluminum company, and he eventually became a building inspector. And my son is a senior engineer in transmission line work for Evergy, which is the Kansas City and state of Kansas utility supplier. So I've just had an interest outside of the Villages of doing something from a community standpoint, and this popped up, and I think I could maybe add some things to the group. So.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
I think I'm still on there, right? Still on the list? Good evening, Mark Schwartz, 918 Hawk Landing, Fruitland Park. I'm a 19-year resident of Fruitland Park. I've watched the growth around me. I also offer the perspective of being a Leesburg-based business that also relies on our utilities. I think one of the unique things that I bring to this opportunity is that of being a communications professional. And as we kind of learned in the past, that sometimes it's not necessarily what's done, but how it's conveyed to your customers and constituents. So I think that's one of the things I would bring to this group. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking around. Discussion?
I'll make a motion for Mr. Schwartz.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay. Let's move to large. What's that? So these are now one-year appointments. This will be for first will be the large. Speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Amanda McClee. I am representing Lake Medical Imaging. I've been an employee there for 21 years. I am the facilities director for Lake Medical Imaging. I oversee all 7 of their facilities, 2 that are here in the city of Leesburg. Our usage is pretty high. Monthly, we exceed that 100,000 kilowatt. I don't claim to be a subject matter expert in the utility department, although I do have family in that industry. But I am a team player. I do budgeting in my career every day, and so I bring that expertise to the table, as well as someone that works well with others. So thank you for your consideration.
Dan Roebuck, 610 East Main Street, Leesburg. I'm the owner of Romac Building Supply, and it sure is nice to be on this side of the thing and get to leave after this vote's done. But no, I mean, we are a large user of power. Last month, my utility bill was about $15,500. So it's something that I certainly notice each month. I spent, when I was on the commission, spent 8 years as a representative with the FMPA. Policy Maker Liaison Committee, and 2 years there as chairman. So I know all the people there. I had a little mixed feelings about applying for the board, and I will say up front, like, this is not something I want to do for a long time. I'd be happy to do it for a year to 3 max. I think there would be some benefit to having some continuity and understanding the commission side and understanding the electric side, but I also like to see other people get an opportunity to do this stuff. So. Yeah, so I think I've got a pretty good idea how the electric department runs, but always wanting to learn more, and happy to help if you'd like me to. Thanks.
Discussions?
Well, I know Amanda would do a great job with no reservation, but Dan Roebuck's experience is more than anybody in the room. Between 8 years on commission and, more importantly, 8 years on FMPA, he brings a lot of wisdom. So I would support Dan.
I do agree that Dan does bring a lot of knowledge and experience. He's sat on multiple boards, and I think Amanda is a very qualified candidate as well. So I would like the board to consider her as well. They're both highly qualified, and this is an advisory board to us, and the people in the community would go to them and talk to them about it, and it would be a buffer between us and them. So, but I think they're both very qualified candidates.
Okay. We need a motion.
So I'll make a motion to nominate Dan Roebuck.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Excuse me. Mayor Burry?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Okay, and now, finally,
The last one.
the small commercial account. Would you like to speak? Because you're going to get nominated. We only have one applicant. All right. So Jessie Flynn from Gourmet Today will be the 5th person. She'll be in that 1-year appointment term. So with those positions, now we need a motion.
Do we need to approve her?
Did we already?
We didn't.
Well, we have to approve this slate, I would assume, Grant. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're okay with the roll call vote that's preceded, but if we want to make a motion to approve the slate just to eliminate all doubt, I think that's certainly fine, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the slate.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay, moving on to public hearings and non-routine items. As we said before, item 6A, 1 and 2 have been removed. They will be readdressed on 9/25/23 at 5:30 p.m. here in the Fred Morrison Chamber at Leesburg City Hall. So we'll move on. Would someone please introduce 6A3?
I'll introduce 6A3 to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 22, Section 22-7, natural gas line installation procedures to clarify the residential development units to which natural gas line and appliance installation requirements apply, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinances, providing conflicts, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second. Discussion? Anyone have questions? Roll call. Do we need a public comment? Any public comment on this? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
No. Okay, so moving on to item 6B. Will someone please introduce 6B 1, 2, and 3?
I'll introduce 6B 1, 2, and 3 to be read by title only.
6B1, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 12.5 acres, generally located west of County Road 468 and north of Jones Drive, as legally described in Section 21, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 1, and providing an effective date. 6B2, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 12.5 plus minus acres from Lake County urban medium density to City of Leesburg low density residential for a property generally located west of County Road 468 and north of Jones Drive, lying in Section 21, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6B3, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 12.5 plus minus acres from Lake County RP Residential Professional to City of Leesburg SPUD Small Plan Unit Development and R2 Medium Density Residential to allow for single-family development for property generally located west of County Road 468 and north of Jones Drive, lying in Section 21, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
This item is only a first reading, so we're not going to vote tonight, but we would like to hear from staff with a presentation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Can we have the maps up? This property is located in West Leesburg. Let me get to my maps. So this is north of Jones Drive and
Too far. Did you see it? Back up. You went too far.
going all the way to 6B1. And then all the way to the end of that, I believe you'll find the maps.
Is it in the second one?
6B1. Yep, that's, well, there. So go to the bottom. Yeah, okay, there we are. So County Road 468, there's the property. Veach Road runs through it, and Jones Drive is just south of it. This is 11.7 acres. The overall request is to annex the property into the city. with the accompanying small-scale comprehensive plan and PUD zoning districts. The comprehensive plan is going from Lake County urban medium to City of Leesburg low-density residential, and the zoning is going from Lake County residential professional to City of Leesburg small planned unit development and R2. The proposal consists of 25 single-family residentials on approximately 11.7 acres for a density of about 2.2 dwelling units per acre. Within the PUD, it's single-family residential only. The lots will be 60 feet in width by 120 feet in length for 7,200 square feet per lot. The minimum house size is 1,500 square feet. They can be 2 stories or 35 feet tall. The setbacks from the front are 30 feet, and the sides are 7.5 and 18 in the rear. These are going to be pretty nice lots and pretty nice houses. It's a minimum 2-car garage with architectural standards, dark sky lighting. The wetlands are protected with buffers, 25-foot buffers. Trees are required in the front and backyards. The planned unit development requires fencing and either a 4-foot split rail fence or a 6-foot vinyl fence. The access points are from Veach Road. A separate recreational area of 5,000 square feet is required, and all other standards of the PUD requirements are in force. There were no substantive comments from the city departments. And per the state of Florida and City of Leesburg notice requirements, the project was sent to the surrounding property owners, and no negative responses were received. There were 2 positive responses. And I believe former Commissioner Christian is here if he would like to speak. He says he's fine.
Any questions for staff? No questions. Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to say something. I think this is a wonderful idea for District 1, and sounds like the lot size would be very decent, and I welcome the opportunity of having a community, actual housing community in the area, and I think it would be wonderful.
What we've seen from the concept plans, it looks to be a very nice development.
Okay.
Any public comment? Any discussion from the commissioners? Okay. This will lay over. This was first reading. We'll have the second reading on October 9th. October 9th here at 5:30. Would someone please introduce item 6B4?
6B4 to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, further amending the City of Leesburg retirement plan for general employees adopted pursuant to ordinance number 18-31 as subsequently amended, amending Section 6, benefit amounts and eligibility, amending Section 5, cost of living adjustment, providing for codification, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Okay. We're going to have a second reading on this on 9/25. But let's open it for discussion. We actually have several. Yeah, why don't Al?
You want a quick rundown? So this ordinance is being requested from the General Employees Pension Board. As the commission knows, we have 3 pensions in the city of Leesburg. The pension that's funded for the Police Benevolence Association, the certified police officers and the ranking staff. The IFF, the same for the fire department, and then the General Employees Pension Fund, which covered every city employee in the city but for police and fire up until October 1, 2008. At that time, we closed the plan, and we have what you call a closed pension fund that's still required to be funded so that it's actuarially sound. And effective October 1, 2008, any employee who was hired after that moved into the defined compensation plan, where the city provided and provides, still does, a 5% contribution into a 401k for those individuals who were in the retirement plan, as well as all new employees. The purpose of closing the plan was, at that time, the economy was crashing, revenues were scarce, and a common reaction of many municipal corporations was to close pension plans as a way to save money and lower the tax burden. 15 years later, whatever the math is on that, really probably in the last 3 to 4 years, we've actually seen that action of closing the plan start to generate some revenue for the city. And so that's a reciprocal. Generate revenue for the city means reduce our liability. As we saw the requirement of the actuarial funding for that plan go down, we have kept our funding level, which then actually overfunds the plan, and with the perspective of ultimately that's the city funding that plan in out years would become less and less and less, and the closed plan would be actuarially viable without our funding. We're not there yet, but in this year's budget discussions, you pretty much saw the $1 million of funding for an actuarial liability of $500,000. So we're basically doubling the requirement of funding. So from a financial standpoint from the city, that's a good thing, which quickens the time that we ultimately wouldn't have to vest. Right now, in round numbers, there's about 250 retired employees or beneficiaries who collect a pension from that fund, and there's probably about 115 employees or so that are vested or eligible to receive those monies. So what the board frankly has asked is a pension modification, which increases the benefit. That's code from a management's perspective. Whenever you change or increase a pension benefit, that increases your costs. In this case, I'm going to recommend in one form or fashion that the city grant the pension board their request. They've asked two things. The plan right now provides a COLA for those vested employees at 68, the typical retirement age being 65. So 3 years after retirement, those recipients who are vested and retired get a COLA at every year, but it starts the third year after they've retired. They've requested you to consider one of two options. One would be that the COLA is effective at age 65. If you opt to do that, I think the increase was about $557,000, so it would be about a $57,000 increase. The second option they've asked for, which is a little more lucrative, is that the COLA would be effective for early retirement without penalty. So there is an early retirement option in that plan whereby you reach age 63 and have certain years service. You're eligible for vesting and pension without a penalty. If you allow the COLA to be effective for early retirement recipients, then your costs increase to $605,000. So overall, you see an increase to us of either $72,000 a year or about $100,000 a year. Being that we've moved in the last 3 fiscal years that we have significant funds that we've continued to contribute double the actual requirement, you certainly have those funds available. So the increase in pension and I think the increase in liability, I don't think is significant. And as long as we continue to budget down that path, we still have a declining liability there. Also, these employees, they're, like I say, the 265 and the 115 strong. That number, so there's about 370 or so employees in rough numbers. Those are pretty much your senior employees. They have been through the ringer and have stood steadfast with this organization from the initial freezing of the plan to different health care cutbacks. So it's really a de minimis request to try to increase their benefits, especially now in light that we have some savings that we can share, which really doesn't put the city in a bad fiscal position, but does help the remaining retirees who were vested those long ago. Pursuant to the rules of a pension plan, ordinances are required to modify the plan. So when you hear this on the second reading and hear the public hearing, you then make the determination whether you A, make no change, B, make the 65-year COLA increase, or B, really make the COLA increase to the early retirement age at 63 with those financial parameters.
Any questions?
I guess my big question is, what are other municipalities doing? What is customary? I mean, I'm from the corporate world, and I don't ever remember a pension being modified, so I'm just curious.
The answer lies all over the map. Police and fire are definitely separate in terms of how pensions are managed because of the high stress, low retirement age, and those type of duties. So you'll typically see in the state of Florida different and better pension plans, factors, earlier retirement issues, and across the board you'll see police and fire plans are higher cost to fund, and greater benefits. General employee pension funds these days are a rare breed. Many municipal corporations like Leesburg in that time frame made the same decision Leesburg did to freeze these plans to save money. I think at that time that plan probably was not the most competitive. It was probably a little bit better than the defined compensation plan that they now receive. So I don't know if you can really compare. I can tell you that I think the request is reasonable. It's not an over lucrative defined benefit, and in light of the fact that those, again, because of those actuarials and our overfunding of the pension plan the last several fiscal years has put us in a position to be able to absorb a minor increase, I think gives some goodwill to the employees, and that helps the senior employees subsidize some of their retirements. So those senior employees who are still with us, they would receive at the end, they would have their 401k to supplement the closed pension fund. And most of those, and two, when we close that fund, that's kind of probably the big thing that you don't see is even though those employees are still vested, their earnings at that time was frozen too. So let's say you had an employee who was working and made 50 grand in 2008, maybe that employee is making 75,000, but that 50 grand is what that pension is at. It didn't include the growth over the last 20 years. So at the end of the day, I've always cautioned that pension funds are difficult for the city to fund. They're atypical these days, but I don't think that this request is one that's out of the ordinary, and it's probably reasonable given the financial position of the fund and how we've gone about managing funding the pension.
I'll just comment. You did get my attention when you referred to the longer-term employees, the ones who've been here from 2008 or before. So that's all I have tonight.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we will have a second reading on this in 9:25, and at that time we will we'll determine the options. All right, so moving on to 6C1. Would someone please introduce?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission, City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an asset transfer agreement with the Leesburg Partnership and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Discussion?
You want me to tee this one up for you as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, you got me on a roll. I've been pretty brief, though, this evening, too, with all those
You're doing all
complex
right so
topics.
far.
Yeah, I was going to say, hit the 3-minute timer.
So, all right. As you know, this, and I'm going to refer to it as LP, Leesburg Partnership, just to use the acronym there. As you know, the Leesburg Partnership, the LP, requested of the city that the city absorb events. We had a long discussion on that, probably the past 2 commission meetings now. The longest was the presentation I made the city commission at our last meeting, I believe, where we provided a model that if the city would take over events, this is how we would do it, this is how we would fund it. And there were a lot of unanswered questions, most of which involved revenue issues, what events the city would pick, and those type of things. And I think at the end of the day, the important thing there was that with the passage of the city taking on the events versus the LP, that the city commission then would determine what events you do, and I provided a format for that of how you would have maybe certain type of major events, which would be 4th of July, holiday festivals around the New Year, perhaps a continuation of Bike Fest or some other type of events, those being major events where the community comes to that are no fee type of events. Then a kind of a secondary event, different things where the city would sponsor the daughter-daddy dance, the Boo Bash, different slides, perhaps the movie night again, or those other types of varying events, and then ticketed events, which we would probably reserve chicken, the chili cook-off, fish fry, those type of things. That would be reserved potentially for other not-for-profits. So in doing that, the city commission at your last meeting pretty much by consensus gave me the direction to fund events pursuant to the proposal, which was in short, we probably would need 2.5 employees that would go in the recreation department, would be supervised underneath Travis Reimer, the recreation director, then under me, and then we would have the events division of the recreation department, which would be funded with the CRA monies from downtown, which we identified was not atypical. We saw some other communities, even in Lake County, who used their TIF monies to do that. And your action was to go ahead and fund that. So we moved forward. We got an ad out. We got some job descriptions out based on your direction. And then moving forward, we kind of determined in some conversation between myself and the LP exec board what the next step was. And some questions came up on the LP board as to whether, what's the legal actions of the LP asking the city to take these over? How did the LP determine that? What do we do with the assets? When do we announce this? My direction was we really shouldn't announce it until the budget's approved, but there's things that we needed to do. So long story short, what we've determined kind of in this new venture is that in talking with Grant Watson and a couple of folks from the LP, that we needed an asset transfer agreement. And what that asset transfer agreement would do would be to demonstrate to this body that not just the LP executive board, but the board of directors, and pursuant to the bylaws of the LP, had a formal vote where it was discussed, debated, and formally voted on that the LP votes by the board of directors to give the assets, the naming rights of the Leesburg Bike Fest, and the equipment to the city. The LP Board of Directors met on Thursday, September 7th at 8:30 a.m. at their offices, had a discussion and debate of which I was present for, answered questions. I think the important things there to note is that this body, the City Commission, you all didn't ask for this. I stressed to the board that I think that this body, through our discussions, that your number one priority is that Leesburg continue I should have got some water. I didn't, I'm doing good here, but I know I'll be quick. That this body, that your major consideration in all seriousness was that Leesburg have quality events that represent the city of Leesburg well, that show that we're a great place to live, work, and play, and that was an important part of the city, and to such an extent that the commission asked that be placed in your fiscal year budget. There was much discussion, but at the end, I think it was probably I know that the LP Board of Directors has an official vote, but it's somewhere around, by my count, about 10-1 that the asset sales agreement would be approved by the LP. So now it's your turn to vote on that document, which is in your packet. I can't say anything other than succinctly what that agreement does. That agreement squarely provides the assets, the cash, and the equipment of the LP to the city of Leesburg, as well as the naming rights to Bike Fest. I think that the naming rights to Bike Fest is an important one. So as this body determines what you do with Bike Fest, that this body's in control of that trademark, which I think is significant, represents the city organization as well as the city in general. It's a significant trademark and moniker that I think probably does need some consideration on how that name brand moves forward, kind of in this interim period. With that would be the report. Based on your vote tonight, should you accept that agreement, I think that then squarely kind of forces your hand on the budget requirements to a degree, because if you accept the assets and you tell the LP, yep, we're taking over events and we're taking your assets, I think you quasi-commit to doing events in some form or another. Now, that doesn't mean come Thursday night, when you hear the budget, that you say, okay, $450,000, but I think it does say that you're committing to taking over the events, and I think we certainly understand the circumstances, which we talked in detail on how we got where we're at. There may or may not be some citizens who want to talk and advise you on this, so I would recommend, Mayor, that you poll the public before you vote, and that would conclude my report.
I just want to make a couple of comments with regard to what Al said. I think it's important for the public to understand this is not the city of Leesburg grabbing these events, taking it away. This is the organization that did those things asking us to do these things. The original ask, for anybody that was in the room, was for $450,000 to fund the partnership. There was then a change in the internal structure of the partnership. Then there was a decision that the partnership wanted to give those events to us. These were not decisions made by anyone up here. Our decision was, we feel very strongly that the city of Leesburg should provide an entertainment, quality entertainment to our citizens. The July the 4th, those type of things that you see other cities of the same size doing. We looked at what Mount Dora did, what Claremont did, and what Tavares did, looked at their budgets that are run by the city, and 450 was right in the number. So, again, I just want everybody to understand this is not the city going to the partnership and us taking it over. We are taking it over because the partnership is asking us to. So are there any other comments from?
I just have one brief comment. Just want to add to that, and that was a great summary. We are focused on what I call the free events or the non-ticketed events. We are not taking away the ticketed events, the one that the nonprofits can make money on. We'll figure that out another day. But those events will go to, other nonprofit groups where they can sell tickets and raise money.
Yeah, and just to follow up on Mike's comment. It was decided by us. When we talk about ticketed events, we're talking about selling we don't want to take taxpayer money, fund things, and then sell you tickets. That's not what we're wanting to do from the city standpoint. That'll be left to other nonprofits. Any other comments? Do we have any public comments from anyone that'd like to talk about it? Name and address, please, sir.
Name and address. Hello, my name is Bert Bolick. I live at 1206 South 8th Street here in Leesburg. I'm a lifelong citizen of Lake County, lifetime citizen of Fruitland Park in Leesburg. I have a small business here in Leesburg. I currently live right here in Palmer Park, right here in Leesburg. Served on the Partnership General Board for 4 years, served on the Partnership Executive Board for 4 years, and I am the current past president of Leesburg Partnership. Firstly, I'd say I was not a fan of the city of Leesburg taking over this program, and I understand what you said, Ms. Berg. You guys didn't take it. We gave it to you. I understand that. And I was the only no vote on the motion. I did not want to see this go down. However, Al Manor made a very nice presentation the other night, and he's caused me to give this a second look. The presentation was very well organized, addressed most of the components of the partnership and the transition would look like. I also appreciated his candor regarding there was a lot of work still to be done to figure this out and what a Leesburg events department would look like. So I do have two things, though. If this proposal is accepted by the City Commission, I believe it's in the best interest of our community to have the following two things. The Community Advisory Board, that was part of Al's presentation of the night. It kind of sat out on the side. I think this board could ensure the community's best interests are served, be a voice for the businesses impacted both positively and negatively by the events, function as a review board for proposed events before being sent to the department leaders or the City Commission for approval, and also function as a volunteer base for community events. And let me reiterate, this board would not control any of the events department or any of the staff. It would merely be an advisory board to say, hey, we approve, we don't approve, we'd like to talk more about it. Secondly, Bike Fest. Bike Fest should continue until it can be properly phased out with another event. Bike Fest is critical to Lake County, bringing millions of dollars to Lake County over the last 25 years. Bike Fest is critical to downtown bars and restaurants, helping them get through the summer doldrums. And Bike Fest is critical to civic groups, military veterans organizations, Boy Scout troops, Leesburg High School band, sports teams, church youth programs, on and on and on, providing tens of thousands of dollars for their programs. And it has always been done this way regardless of profit or loss by the partnership. So in summary, I'd like to strongly encourage the city commissioners to give the community a voice via the Community Advisory Board and continue Bike Fest until it can be properly transitioned to another major event. And I'd like to go on record tonight as volunteer number 1 for the Community Advisory Board. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? So with regard to the advisory board, do we have any comments from commissioners regarding?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I'd heard about it, and in fact, I was going to tell Bert I was hoping he would apply for it. So it sounds like he already did, but no, I think that's great. They're telling us we have full authority, but we want to take people experienced with the partnership board, and I welcome their thoughts and input.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
I have a question, please. With the advisory board, how would that work with the event planner that we're hoping to bring in that we have budgeted? Will that person be on that committee with the advisory board, or is this in addition to?
It's a good question. I don't think we have the technical answer.
I put the advisory board recommendation out there as food for thought on how to or not operate. I think there's pros and cons to the advisory board. I certainly understand and respect Mr. Bolick's position, but as we discussed at the meeting on Thursday, the LP operated a little bit different because the LP was autonomous. And I don't want to digress, but I think that this is kind of an important thing to talk about because I think it goes into how we move forward. The LP in its day when it operated and Bike Fest was extremely profitable. And let me add this too, and I digress even more because I think I'm just going to Bert said this and at the meeting on Thursday, and I think it's important to reiterate here. The partnership had years of success. And I think it's important to point out that the LP, it's not management, it's not the LP, it's the circumstance of success that's hurt Bike Fest. From COVID to its generation of business, then having spin-off businesses that grew to downtown, that peeled away some of the issues that made that event profitable, which then funded events. So it's kind of like it died, the wheel died of its own success, and I think that that's important to point out. Having pointed that out, like with everything, there's pluses and minuses. And one of the things that the LP had, being the Leesburg Partnership, being a Main Street organization, being a 501c3, it was autonomous from the city. Even though we funded it and we helped it, and there was always a good relationship between the LP and the city, they were still an autonomous body, and it was their determination on how, what, when, and where to do Bike Fest, kind of with the subtle imprimatur of the city through the ordinance that we established on an annual basis. What's different now is that if the city takes over these events, it's this body that's doesn't have such autonomy. You guys make 5 different districts. You're going to have different influences. You're going to have different opinions on how events should or shouldn't be promulgated, on how tax money should or shouldn't be spent. And that's different than the partnership. And so on one hand, I'll say, okay, the events committee is good because it does everything that Bert said. It gives a sounding board to the people. It gives a steering committee, if you will, to staff on how to do events. It doesn't, I don't think, ultimately shelter this body from whether the public, when they vote on you every 4 years, likes the way you're spending that TIF money. So what does that mean? Should you have an advisory board or should you not? I think that's something you shouldn't make a determination on today. I think we need to set up. The first thing the next step we need to do is obviously approve the budget, and then simultaneously we'll be bringing in the recruiting. Travis and I will be recruiting the special events manager. So that's where I think that the discussion of the committee becomes maybe secondary or even tertiary. So I think you bring in the person, and then I think we need to have a little bit more of a formal handoff. The asset transfer agreement does that, and then there's a couple of events the partnership wants to finish off that we've pledged to work with them on, which I think is that months of October and November, if I'm correct. So we'll get those finished off. So I still think we have time to commit or not commit even to the committee.
I would like to make a comment just in regard to advisory committees. As Commissioner Reisman brought up earlier, we have openings on our committees right now. Creating another advisory committee thins out volunteers. I think it makes it harder to put people in that position. Currently, there is a Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, and of which the plan so far is for this division to be a part of that. So I'm not sure that we need to reinvent the whole wheel with a whole new committee, but rather maybe transform that advisory committee to include the events. Just food for thought.
May I also ask, Mr. Bullock, may I ask you, what did you envision? What did you envision your committee working with the new hirees of the event plan? I mean, I'm trying to see how it would work together, or would this be autonomously? I'm not clear on how.
Yes, and thank you, Commissioner Berry, for asking that. The logic was to get together a group of restaurants, business owners, everybody that seems to be impacted by the overall events and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will, because sometimes they work out great, sometimes more businesses are hurt than are helped. So I think at the end of the day, it would give a group together that could kind of queue these events up, look at them based on specific criteria. We said, hey, they need to meet this, 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 and this, and this. And if they don't, you set them aside. If they do, you push them on up the hill to be reviewed by the Parks and Recreation Department and or the city commissioners, or however that's going to go down. But it would just kind of set up a queue and solve a lot of the peripheral issues before it got to you guys. Y'all got a lot to worry about every day, and I think it would help solve some of those problems before they got to you.
So how would this work with, how would this work with the event planner or that person who they would bring in on their team?
Well, we would simply compliment them, help them, get some of the weeds cleared out, things like that.
It would function like the Planning and Zoning Board. It would function like the Electric Advisory Board that we brought in. It would be an ad hoc committee where the staff would get input and ideas and feedback from them.
And this committee advisory board would be open for just city businesses in Leesburg, or open to all to be aboard?
It would be appointed by this commission.
Appointed by, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
I'm just trying to understand that, just not to. Thank you. I'm sorry to bring you back.
Thank you very much.
Any more public comment? Any other commissioners with questions or comments? So we have a resolution. We need a motion to accept the assets.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any other discussion? Roll call. Nope, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to be clear. The vote is to transfer assets.
Taking assets.
And we're taking assets from the partnership to
City
of Leesburg.
That's correct.
And nothing else that we're voting on.
Nothing
Okay,
else.
thank you.
Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay. Would someone please introduce item 6C2?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a lighthouse construction agreement with the Leesburg Boat Club and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second. Discussion.
Can we have the presentation
Would you like to hear from the public first?
from the public? And
I don't know if we actually have a
Mr.
presentation.
We do. Mr. Sullivan, who's representing the boat club, has a quick presentation.
Okay.
I think the presentation's pretty close to what's in your packet, but we've got it queued up for him.
Sure.
I just put some verbiage in it, and I tried to maintain the 3-minute time limit too. So I'll get through this very quick. All of you, I think all of you know me, but I am here officially as a Commodore of the Leesburg Boating Club, and I'm here to seek a collaborative agreement between our Lakefront City and the Leesburg Boat Club in order to build a lighthouse. There's a legal document that's somewhere out here that our attorneys have worked on. I don't know the exact status of that because our attorney is currently in France. So anyway, but that's okay. Right, I know. And he was on vacation before that, so it was anyway. So
It is.
Yeah.
It's in the packet.
There's a legal document
okay,
that's
good.
in the packet.
The many attributes of being the lakefront city are often overlooked. However, the Harris Chain of Lakes is the best bass fishing in the southeastern United States. The wonderful docks located at Venetian Gardens were paid through tourism dollars that everybody in this community uses and all the boaters use. The benefits to our community have been multiple to that. The great improvements that you have made to Venetian Gardens, providing not only passive recreation, but also great venues for the 4th of July celebrations to the annual Christmas boat parades. And all these events not only create a sense of community, but support local businesses who create jobs as well as pay taxes in all forms to support the city's many services. Next slide. So if you could take one capital project and enhance your image as the lakefront city, while also enhancing the boating experiences of hundreds of boaters, as well as put Leesburg in the forefront of all communities. That project would be the Venetian Gardens Lighthouse. Located on your Venetian Gardens property, this 49-foot structure would have the capability to see all the way to the Highway Bridge. It would serve as a navigational tool for recreational boaters, as well as professional and amateur fishermen. And I should mention that it can be directed not to disturb any current businesses or residents by just the aiming of the light. Next slide. These are renderings of the boat or the lighthouse, and there are several different ways. By collaborating with the Leesburg Boat Club as a project overseer, you could save thousands of dollars by utilizing our not-for-profit status, as well as the many donated services such as engineering and architectural services already provided. Next slide. There's another that shows you the exact location. That will have to be exactly worked out. I've visited many times, and that's where I picked up on the where people are sitting on those benches. It's just a beautiful location, and this is just going to enhance that. So, what is the bottom line? Next slide. The bottom line shows that estimate for this cost is $524,031. This would be the maximum cost for this project unless additions were made. Highlighted in the proposal is a payment and performance bond, which guarantees the completion of the project in event of default. This project, there are other projects and additions that you might want to consider, none of which are put here, but such things as bathrooms and even a place to show an anchor that the Historical Society has found, which you show is $46,000. That's not included in our summary. But we have estimates on bathrooms and other things, so we'd be glad to cooperate on those kind of projects. But the point is that Leesburg is a lakefront city. People come to this city for lakefront. You know, I live in Arlington Ridge, and it's amazing to me how many people own boats. And when I mention this project, every one of them goes, wow, what a great idea. Wow, what a great idea. Because it's just an enhancement to what we do. Just think about those amateur boaters and amateur fishermen, and then the professional boaters that take out of here, professional fishermen that take out of here at dark 30 to go fishing. And those kind of tournaments bring tax dollars to this community, support our businesses who have employees, and also pay tax dollars into the city coffers. So we would like your consideration in collaborating with the Leesburg Boating Club to build a lighthouse on Venetian Gardens. Last slide. There it is. Any questions? You didn't put the timer on me, Mayor. Gosh.
You're all right. Any questions?
Yeah. Mr. Sullivan, you mentioned that you would be willing to collaborate your organization. Right. What exactly?
Well, basically, we would manage the project so that, and use our not-for-profit status, and hopefully, for instance, the engineering and the architectural services for this have already been donated. So when I show you the big number there, that number could actually go down. Another project that has come up, a local paint company has already volunteered to provide all the paint for that thing, for the lighthouse. So that's what I mean by and you wouldn't have any employee input into it, so you're not taking away from your operational appointments, because the boat club would handle all the participation.
So I'm understanding you're saying the estimated cost here would be lower?
It's possible. That's the worst case. Members of my committee said that's the worst case committee or worst case setting, and hopefully it will go down. and they're, you know, in total disclosure, we have set aside some money. We're 300-member board. It's not like we've got $500,000 laying around that we could do this, but we do have an amount set aside that if that takes what it takes to move this project forward, we'll be willing to do that. And to be honest, that's $25,000.
Any other questions?
And from a sales point of view, I should never point that out. I should point that out.
We're going to have more public comment, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
If you,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I have another
did you have another question for Mr.
Yeah,
Sullivan?
I just want to know, do the residents of the area of Palmore Park, are they wanting the lighthouse?
As a matter of fact, the vast majority of our members are from the city of Leesburg, and I don't know the exact number, but they almost all live in Palmore Park, and they're almost all boaters. So I've been a member of the boat club for, I don't know, 15 years or so. I'm just here today because I'm the new Commodore, so I'm the guy that got here. But across the board, I think that, you know, you can debate the spending of the money and those kind of things, but there are very few things that you can do to enhance your image, and especially as a lakefront city. But this is one of them, and it's a one-time capital expense, and it would enhance the forefront of Venetian Gardens. It doesn't impact any of the other activities that you have going down there, and it provides a really navigational tool and shows that we are the lakefront city where boating and recreation is a part of our lifestyle.
Thank you.
Other public comment?
I'd like to say one thing.
But
I didn't plan to speak, forgive me. My name is Kirk Rouse. I live in Fruitland Park, 1039 Linda Glen, Fruitland Park. I am the president of Leesburg Concrete Company, which is the name of the company on those drawings. Mr. Sullivan did a great job. I just want to expound on that. I think there are several vendors that have donated at cost, whatever that may be, whatever their role may be. I don't recall when we first were asked to get involved in this, a year and a half? Was it a year and a half? 2 years ago? I don't know. I will say this, the structure itself, for example, if this goes forward, we are scheduled to build the structure itself, and as Leesburg Concrete Company, and the engineering and all of that has been donated by my engineers, and the structure itself, the budget sounds like a lot, $524. My part of this whole thing at cost, I think I gave a number of $200,000. If this was anywhere else, my part of this would be $400,000 plus. So as a value, I just want to illuminate, we're not the only vendor that has done this. I know there's structural engineers, there's civil engineers, there are all kinds of folks that have done pro bono work, and the value of that tower, if you went out and bought this retail, I would say to you is $1 million, and I'm not exaggerating. I just wanted to let the board hear that the value of what you're getting is extremely strong for the money. So I just want to leave it with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Tom Grizzard, lifelong resident of Leesburg and the immediate past Commodore of the Leesburg Boat Club. To give a little bit of history of how this started, about 4 years ago, some of our board members said, we ought to have a lighthouse. And that kind of germinated for a while, and they said, well, how do we get it started? Well, why don't we figure out what it's going to cost? Well, to do that, we had to have some geotechnical engineering done, survey work done, and our board was so enthusiastic about moving this project forward is that we fronted the money to pay for that geotechnical information and the surveying. and to move it so we'd have those costs that we could present it to the city, so we'd know where we were going with that. Our board unanimously approved it, thought it was a great idea. Everybody else has done it as well. And as we said, the people like Kirk, the engineer, Springstead Engineering, the contractors, everybody has just been overboard, spending a lot of time and money and effort and moving this project forward to where we are today to get your approval. And I urgently ask for your approval. Thank you.
My name is Carl Davis. I'm from the NAACP. I live at 609 on Highway 466 in Lady Lake. I was just listening to this project, and several other times I've been here before. $500,000 I'm looking at for a lighthouse in light of a lot of problems that I see, because I work down on Beecher Street all the time. I see a lot of problems, and I think I see a lot of homeless people. That's number one. I think that $500,000 in this city could be used for a lot of other things. I'm not saying that the lighthouse is important to a certain segment of the population, but I think a city job, a city people that's in charge should worry about the less fortunate of us, all of us. I mean, that's our job, to think about people that's less fortunate. And we have a lot of problems of homeless in this city. And I think that $500,000 would go a long way to helping the homeless in this city. And I think that this is something that you really should consider. A lighthouse, I don't consider is important. When I see people in this city driving around, me driving around, a hot day like today, on the highway, milling around in 93-degree heat. So I think that we definitely got to spend money, because I know I spend money for the NAAC, and I spend it very prudently, trust me. So I think that we might just think about that, and that's what I think about this project.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
Put this thing back together. Yeah, my name is Bill Polk at 600 Cascade Avenue. I have to beg to differ with the people at Palomar Park all going for this. Most of them did not have a clue that this was even happening. But I have a little thing that's put up here. Leesburg is a special place to live in and work in. Being born here has been a wonderful experience for me. Leesburg has a beautiful park system and Venetian gardens. The boat basin has been a part of the park that has been brought back to life in the last 10 years. Leesburg Boat Club was created in 1947 by my father-in-law, who was the first Commodore of the Leesburg Boat Club. Through the years, the Boat Club has done many, many different projects to make the boating experience better for all the people of Leesburg. Boat Club has a wonderful idea for the lighthouse project on the point at Ski Beach. The only problem that I see with this project is funding the project. Funding this project should not be done with any type of government funding. The money can be and should be raised by the Leesburg Boat Club. It is not good stewardship of our public funds. And I disagree with Mr. Sullivan's idea of seeing the boathouse or the lighthouse as a navigational thing. Everybody's got a telephone now, and they all got GPSs on them. And I used to go fishing with my dad when it's pouring down rain. You couldn't see. It's dark as hell. And we made it back to the boat basin every time. And they didn't have a GPS or anything. Didn't even have a compass in the boat. Didn't even have life jackets in the boats. So being a navigational tool for a small lake, it's a large lake, but you can follow the shore and you're going to get somewhere. But many of the residents that I've talked to throughout the city, and I talked to a lot, I handed out flyers on Saturday for people. They didn't have a clue about anything that's going on in this thing. $500,000. We got rusty water pipes in Pelmore Park. We got drains that don't drain when it rains hard in Pelmore Park. You've got the road floods on Lakeshore Drive. On the east end of town, you got the same thing with the water pipes out there. They're 100 years old. They said this was going to last 100 years. Well, we got pipes that are 100 years old that we hadn't done anything about for years and years and years. We got pipes on the west end of town that hadn't been replaced in 100 years. So $500,000 could go a long way on what this man was talking about, helping the community in Leesburg. And I think that, you know, raising the money for the boat club will be a good thing. That $25,000 donation that they're going to give us, it takes 71 years to pay for that thing if everybody gave $20 in the boat club. So, you know, there's people in the boat club that could write a check and pay for this thing all at once. So I am totally opposed of funding this project. I think it's a wonderful project, but I'm totally opposed to funding it with government funds, which the city needs throughout the city on other projects. Thank you.
Mr. Polk, more comment?
My name is Jen McCurry. I actually do live in Palmora Park, 1105 South 9th Street. Thank you for handing out these flowers because I had no idea. I truly respect the boat club and your passion for boats. I'm a car girl myself. I respect you, sir, and what you're trying to do for the community. But I guess my big question is that on that cover sheet that I pulled up online for this meeting, it says the funds would come out of the ARP, and my acronyms may be off, but is that not the American Rescue Plan? So I'm a little confused as to how that works, how a lighthouse is paid for.
Quick explanation.
So was it $4 trillion or $2 trillion that the federal government issued? The city received about $11.5 million in American Recovery Program money. There's been as the programs move forward, there's been a bunch of different interpretations on how the money can be spent for. The current interpretation is pretty much anything. So this is an eligible expense from the ARP, American Recovery Program. 2 years ago, was it? This body set out and kind of broke down the American Recovery Program funds in different expenditure ways. Pine Street, Boys and Girls Club, the marina improvements, the Susan Street improvements. So we broke down different projects, contributions to different not-for-profit organizations. Of that, we probably left $1 million or so of it unallocated. We paid ourselves back for some lost monies. And so right now, the city has kind of squirreled away about $3 million of unallocated funds for capital projects that come from varying sources: American Recovery money, interest earnings on different projects, projects that ended that we just put money back into the capital project fund, so to speak. So the quick and easy way to explain the funding source would be from American Recovery monies, which we had about $690,000 left from. Now, not all of it's spent, but about $690,000 it remains unallocated.
Okay. I think most of us think is the ARP is something that's helping recover, and I don't know that the lighthouse is bringing an ROI back to the community. I might suggest a regatta. I know we did that in Rockville and made a ton of money. They redid the entire yacht club. So there's options out there. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Other public comment? Comments from commissioners?
I think it's well known. I've supported this. The boat club talked to me, oh gosh, probably a year ago. I said I would support it. The number was a little lighter then, so my job's got a little more difficult. Yeah, I recognize this is a luxury item for our community, but I think it's a rare opportunity to do something special for the community. You know, we are taking out of the American Rescue Plan dollars, and Al touched on some of it, but that money was spent, I'm going to say, heavily in Carver Heights and Pine Street. Boys Girls Club, Pine Street, money to CDC. So I say that for your benefit, sir. And let me comment to the other thing she made. Our city is in great financial shape. A lot of cities needed this money. This was a gift to us. When this started, there were cities around this country, typically larger cities. Can't guarantee this, but I'm gonna bet that had a lot to do with how this originated. There were cities in trouble that needed this money to stay afloat and make up for losses, et cetera, et cetera. Cities have significant debt obligations, which we do not have any debt obligations other than in our utilities. But my point is, it's a luxury item. Yes, it's been controversial. I have taken calls and texts. I would say it's been about 50-50 split. My favorite story is a husband and wife, where one was for it and one was against it. So that tells you right there where this thing stands. But I guess my whole point is we can afford this. We are fiscally sound. We are doing all the right things in our city. We're not perfect. We have a ways to go. But I think over the course of, I've been on the commission 4.5 years. I would say over the last 5 to 10 years, I've been very happy with the beautification efforts by this city. The fiscal responsibility of this city, and I respect what the boat club has done. It is being built on a discount, and I will support it.
Any other comments?
I have a couple. I think it's a great idea. You can look at it, it'd be pretty neat to look at, but that's about all you're going to get out of it is you can look at it and say, hey, that's pretty nice there. And for $500,000, once you've seen it once, you've seen it. And everybody, all the rest of the commissioners know I'm fairly conservative when it comes to spending of our money on projects, and I try to look at when I make a decision on how to vote on a large expenditure is how much expenditure is and what's the benefit, the overall benefit to the community, not a select few, but the overall population. And like I said, it's neat. It'll be something neat to look at, and it would make us stand out a little bit. But I don't know what really benefits the population as a whole. 'Cause really, once you've seen it once or twice, you've seen it. You can't go in it. You can't go up top. It's just really for aesthetics down there. So, like I said, I can't see spending that kind of taxpayer money on something that really doesn't really benefit the majority as a whole. And like I said, once you've seen it once, you've kind of seen it.
If we're going to build something, I think it's I think it's a beautiful lighthouse, but I think if we're going to build something, I would like to see a bathroom incorporated in it. That's where everything is on that side of the park, and the bathroom is way on the other side. So if you have a family, it's 0.4 miles away to take your kids. So if we're going to build something, I think we should kill two birds with one stone and incorporate a bathroom. I don't know if it could be designed into the bathroom, and I know we also have a bathroom that needs to be built at John L. Johnson Park as well. So I would like to see the boat club maybe fundraise for this a little bit, but have a little more skin in the game as well too. But I do think it's a cool project.
I believe the restroom's another $250,000.
Yeah, I know.
So now you're talking $750,000 to
so if we're going to build something,
so we're talking very large amount of money, and so
I agree.
I don't see the overall benefit.
I have a couple of comments, and I'll go ahead and get them out. As far as my position, I have no strong feeling one way or another whether we should have a lighthouse or not have a lighthouse. This idea of a lighthouse has been banged around Leesburg for well over 20 years. I can remember serving on the Parks and Recreation Committee when LPG brought a plan for Venetian Gardens and one of the things they thought we could do was build a lighthouse. So, this is not just something new that started. Saying that, I would like to bring up some similar things that have happened in Leesburg that everybody ought to be aware of. Everybody knows the Fountain Lake Park that's just behind us. A veterans group came to the city and wanted to build memorials down there. They wanted a helicopter. They wanted to honor our veterans. And the city of Leesburg told them if they raised the money, we would not donate the land because we still own the land, but we'd allow for them to have the memorial. And we also had a guarantee from them that they would take care of it. So that's how business has been done when a select group comes to the commission to request something like this. For those reasons, I think that if the boat club if this is the direction that they feel like needs to occur, then I think this is an item that the boat club should fundraise for and raise the money.
May I ask if the commission would, now we don't have to vote on it, well, would the commission consider some kind of match on it? You know, dollar for dollar match. I mean, this is a big project. I'm just throwing out creative ideas.
I'd like to also ask for the expenses of the cost of support of the anchor or whatever, could that be provided by the boathouse? I mean, would that be considered?
The boat club can speak to this, but I would probably say let's delay that item a year or two, either from the standpoint of city budget or let the boat club deal with that. But just an effort to try to get the votes here, I would recommend we pull that out for now. And I don't take that lightly. I know who's behind it. But it could be done 1, 2, 3 years down the road as well. That's a completely different project.
I thought it was estimated at.
Well, it's above this number.
Okay, so it's included in the number.
I do think that with regard to the anchor, I mean, that would really change what the design is. You would have to know that going into it, because I think the anchor was supposed to be viewed from the outside at the bottom, kind of in the enclosure.
Yeah, I was never clear on that, but just for Commissioner.
I mean, that's the plan that I had heard. So that would functionally, completely change.
But just to clarify for Commissioner Berry, the number here is 524 for the lighthouse and 46 for the anchor, and we can pull the anchor if that would help get your vote.
Yeah, and the anchor is also, I think that's the cost that it's going to incur to clean up the rust, to treat it. So I mean that's not really design things for the lighthouse. That's what it costs to preserve the anchor, because it's in the water right now.
Oh, but an added cost.
Is that correct? The anchor's still in the water?
It's an added cost, and the boat club.
That's correct. And of those $46,000, 32 of them go to the State Historical Society to recover it.
Any other comments from commissioners?
One more comment. This just speaks to, because I have taken criticism, for being financially irresponsible on this and other criticisms. I feel like I've been fiscally responsible as a commissioner. I said this is a luxury item, but just to reinforce, this commission, well, I guess this Thursday they'll see that we are aggressively reducing our millage rate. So I just want to air that out that. This is a tax project, but this city has been very wise in how it spent money.
Roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Reisman?
No, not as is.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
No. All right, so let's move on. Let's see, where am I? We're just into the informational part, right?
Yes, sir.
May I ask another question?
Sure.
I don't know if this would sway Commissioner Reisman, but could I make a motion to do the lighthouse in the bathroom?
Or we table it till a future date and let future. Or,
okay.
But
We voted not to do it, so I'm not sure. You have to get a comment from Grant on
Yes, sir, that's right. We've already voted on that. Now, if a reworked proposal makes its way, I think that could be considered at a later date.
Okay, no, thank you for that clarification. I thought maybe with the bathroom might qualify as a new, but we got to publish it and all that.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, so we've got the, let me get down to my, okay, so informational reports, we have none. Any city attorney items?
No reports this evening, Mr. Mayor.
City manager items?
None.
Roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes, I have one thing. We did not, last month, the last month's meeting for item number 5C2, the resolution of the lot donations that we established policy and procedures, we had a moratorium and we never voted to lift the moratorium after it passed. May we do that now or should we take it to another meeting?
No, I don't know if we ever did we formally
voted
vote
on it, yes.
On a moratorium?
Yeah, and you didn't do that by resolution or anything, so I think you could have an informal vote.
I think you can.
Right, because it's like action by like action, so.
So we never did. So may I make a motion to lift the moratorium that were on the districts?
Yeah, as to the sale of lots.
Oh, yes.
Donation.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
yeah,
donation
yes,
of lots.
yes, I will second that.
Yeah.
Discussion.
This would be donation or sales, correct? Yeah.
Any discussion? Discussion.
So to lift the moratorium on the properties we own to
We own,
be
yes.
able to
Donate.
as long as they meet the criteria that
Yes.
we set up.
established.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And they still come back to us.
Okay. Any other comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Back to roll
Was
call.
that all?
Yes, that's it for me. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Reisman?
Just want to say we had a successful event at the airport on Saturday, and thank you for Commissioner Berry for coming out. We had close to 300 registered runners running the runways for the Leesburg Blue Foundation, and I see some people in the audience that were there. So I thank you guys for coming out, and it was a successful event, and hopefully we'll see everyone there next year.
Commissioner Connell?
Nothing tonight.
Mayor Burry?
Nothing tonight. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Done.